It's Pesach Sheini, the second Pesach. And this is a unique element in our calendar. There is no second Sukkot or second Shavuot, second Rosh Hashanah, second Hanukkah. It doesn't happen. But engraved in our calendar 30 days after Pesach itself is another celebration of Pesach. It marks a time in the Torah when those who, for reasons that are unclear, there are a number of reasons given for it, but people who were not in a state of purity at the time of Pesach requested, almost demanded, that they have a second opportunity 30 days later to bring the Pesach offering and to celebrate Passover. And they brought this request to Moshe. Moshe brought it to God, and God said, the solution to this problem is we will have a second Pesach for those who were unable to have the first Pesach because of whatever that reason was, but we understand that they were impure because they were doing another mitzvah. Generally speaking, our rabbis bring the fact that this is an opportunity and a statement that God gives second chances. And so one might say that on this day, and this will fall Saturday night into Sunday night, it's an opportunity to reflect on missed opportunities, on things we might otherwise have done differently than we did. And to rectify that and move on with a different approach to the same situation in the future. This is called tshuva. There's another element to it that's very important to understand. This was not, unlike the other holidays, which are commandments or recognized historical events, this holiday came from the ground up instead of from Sinai down. That is to say, the Jewish people themselves said, we're entitled to this second Pesach, and demanded it to have this. How does it reflect on us here today? Well, I think it's very, very important. We're in the midst of what is an absolute revolution and revelation. After 2,000 years, we have our own sovereignty back in our own land. You know, it brings me back to this point about the rains, right? When you're living outside of Israel, the rains come, they go, unless you're a farmer. But here we know that after Passover, that is the cutting of the barley and the growing of the wheat, rain is a problem because it can leave the wheat to rot in the field if it gets wet. We need dry weather between Pesach and Shavuot. So even though we're living in a desert environment, so to speak, we don't consider these rains to be rains of blessing at this time. And you certainly feel it. Back to the Pesach Sheini. So here we are back in our land after 2,000 years, and not just back in our land, because we always had Jews living here, but sovereign in our own land, sovereign in our own land. It means that there are many decisions that have to be made that we never faced before, or haven't faced for 2,000 years. That's 20 centuries. Initiative on the part of the Jews who asked for Pesach Sheini was obviously very positive because God granted this wish and solved the problem. Initiative on the part of Nadav and Avihu, who decided when and where and how they were going to bring their own sacrifice, rather than follow the guidelines laid out by their father and uncle, Aaron the high priest and Moshe our teacher. They suffered the ultimate price for that initiative. So it seems that initiative, if it is in the direction of the will of God, is rewarded. And if not, is not rewarded and can be punished. How does that impact us here? Well, we're re-looking at many of the laws that existed when the majority of the Jews lived outside of Israel, lived under the sovereignty of non-Jews, lived many times as second-class persecuted citizens, lived in walled communities that were locked from the outside. Now, we have to look at our situation again. Halacha has really been the source of our survival in many ways outside of Israel, in Chutz La'aretz, in the land outside. What are the changes that reflect the will of God? What are the mistakes that we could make that would reflect the wills of Nadav and Avihu? And what are the initiatives that we should take that are in line with Pesach Sheini? These are questions that we wrestle with, and we have to find solutions as our environment has changed not a little bit, not from one ruler to another, but radically changed by our blessed return to the land, the Holy Land that God gave to Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov, to be passed on to us, with the responsibilities and the opportunities that go with it. Wishing you a thoughtful and positive Shabbos, as well as Pesach Sheini, and a jubilant Lag BaOmer. David Ostriker here in Karmiel. Be well.